Hello, everyone. I think we are live. So let's first check if the audio and the video is fine. If you can hear me and you can see my screen, you can send me a thumbs up or you can use the chat to tell me that everything works fine. I'm just trying to make sure that, everything works. So yeah, I got some thumbs up here, I think. So that means we're good. Let's see the chat. Can hear you. Thanks, Tom. So great. I'm gonna give a minute or so to allow for everybody to join. Meanwhile, I'll just go over the agenda and the housekeeping items. So today we're gonna talk about the Archbee product updates. We're gonna focus on the updates since late December until today. We did added a lot of new features. We improved the existing technology, and there's a lot to talk about. We also just launched our Chrome extension, which basically allows you to build step-by-step guides, and we're going to talk about that. Integration with Zendesk, with Intercom, and Zapier. So that being said, I'm your host, Claudio. Maybe we talked before. I'm the product specialist here at Archbee. Today, we are going to do this overview of the past 3 months of product updates. Of course, you will get the recording of this session. Whenever you have a question or you want me to cover something in more details, just use the question box or the chat. Any of those work, but the question box just allows me to keep track of the questions and address them one by one. The way this works is that I'm going to do a live demo. I do have here a presentation. I do have a couple of documents created in Archbee, and I'm going to go step by step and talk about each of these updates. And at the end or during my presentation, I'm going to get your questions. I'm going to answer them. And at the end, I'm just going to lay out the roadmap for the next quarter, the next month, and to know what you can expect from Archbee. So that being said, let's talk about the Archbee Chrome extension. We're pretty excited about this. We've worked to improve and try to save some time on your documentation creation. So this extension basically allows you to create step-by-step guides or SOPs, standard operating procedures. You can get the Chrome extension from the Chrome store. It's pretty easy to install. And I'm going to do a quick demo of how the capturing a workflow actually works. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to publish this space. And let's preview this. And I'm going to share this link in the chat. So you can save this link, or if you want to grab any of the information here, feel free to do so, especially for the Chrome extension. To get the Chrome extension, like I said, you can click this button or just go directly to the Chrome Web Store. If you're here in the extensions area, you can type in Archbee, and you'll get this result. You can click on it. I've already installed the Chrome extension, but it's a pretty easy setup. You install it, and after that, you will find it here under the extensions, and you can even pin it here to have it on hand. So I'm going to close this tab, go back to my user interface, and do a really quick demo to show you why is this helpful and how you can basically save time and focus more on the high priority tasks instead of spending time creating documentation. Go to the Chrome extension here, click on it. You'll get this window to start capturing the workflow. So I'm going to click on it. So right now, whenever you highlight any of the elements of a page, you'll see this nice little box that tells you what we select in the backend. So for example, I want to explain here how to create a new space, let's say. So I'm going to go here to spaces and click. Now we recorded this first step. Now I'm going to click here under space name, and I'm going to give it a title. Next, I'm going to record the next step. Click on create space. And maybe now I'm just going to show, how to get to the settings, space settings. So I'm going to click here. So of course, I can continue capturing steps. I can go and, whatever the workflow might be for you. But for now, I'm just gonna end it and tell you where you can find the captured workflow. So I'm gonna click on finish the capture. The document is getting built. You'll get a new tab with the captured document. So here we added a new space called workflow captures. So this is basically a document with a new block that we launched called workflow. And each of these steps are the ones that we captured using the Chrome extension. And what we can do from here is basically add some extra information, but the main part of capturing screenshots mainly is done for us, right? So for example, here the first step is go to Archbee Chrome extension. We can edit this URL if this is what we want. Next, it recognizes automatically that we created a new space based on the button that we clicked. So it also shows here, you know, what we selected, where we clicked. Next, it gave me, you know, a short description of what I did. Basically, I've added the title. I've typed, give it a title. I clicked on create a space. Then I went and highlighted an element, mainly the space settings icon over here, and I clicked on the dialog box, so on and so forth. So from here, you can edit this document as you want. So for example, in my case, I'm just gonna go in and, you know, maybe just delete this one. I don't want to use it. I can drag and drop the items within the workflow block, and this will automatically renumber the item list over here. Next, what I can do is add more context. So for example, if I hit space here, the real power of the workflow block is that you can add additional blocks for each item. So if I hit /, maybe I would like to add a call out here and say, start from here. Of course, start from here, but you know, just for the sake of the demo, I can change that. I can go to a different step and say add a table, maybe a vertical split here. And within this vertical split, I'll say you can write in Archbee or write in GitHub. So the idea here is that we capture all of the clicks that you do while the Chrome extension is active. And after that, we generate the document for you. And within that document, we added this workflow block that is pretty handy and really flexible. And from here, you have the option to further customize your document, build your step-by-step guide, you know, any type of question that comes from teammates, something like, how do I, you know, do whatever? How do I set up my account? How do I get started? So on and so forth. You can use our Chrome extension, and everything is can be then centralized in your spaces. So to do that, basically, this document can be moved from here. If I click on these 3 dots over here, move to another space, I'm going to move it to my product updates space that I've just created. So I'm going to give it a new title. I will drag and drop it here under my document. So this is like the high-level overview, but my recommendation is just to install the plugin, install the extension, go in and capture some workflows, play around with it. This is available in all of the plans. So this is not restricted to any plans. You can use it for free. So that's really powerful if you spend time, you know, detailing step-by-step guides, so on and so forth. It really comes in handy whenever you want to do that. So that's the high-level overview of our Chrome extension. You know, if you have questions about this, please feel free to share those with me. Next, let's spend some more time talking about the workflow block, because the workflow block is basically like a turbocharged list. The way the lists work in Archbee is that if you hit / and just type here lists, you can add bullet lists, numbered lists, checklists. So for numbered lists, what you could do is, step 1, you could add images in a list, but not any of the other blocks that we have available. So that was something that a lot of clients wanted to do. They would like to build lists, numbered lists especially, and add any type of blocks that we have available. But that was not really possible using the previous lists, because this is like a standard numbered list. Step 3. So that's why we added the workflow block. So I'm going to delete this, remove block, hit /, type workflow. And now I can start with this workflow block without having to capture an entire step-by-step guide or an entire workflow. So I can use it in many different ways. Like I mentioned earlier, each item list allows you to add any types of blocks. So let's go a little bit crazy here and add, some random blocks that usually clients would like to add. It was not really possible until now. So let's say you want to build like set up and install, your product or software. So for one, I'm going to type step 1, but now I'm going to add a call out, and this can be anything. This is available for all users. Next, I'm going to add another workflow item, and here I'm going to just type step 2, but here I want to share the code snippet that you would need to go in and get to be able to install our product. So from here, I can add a code block, and of course, multiple tabs here. Maybe, I'll just type here like the script. I don't have like some code on hand, but imagine here that you would add your JavaScript snippet. So that would be step 2. Next, it's like step 3. Let's add a table. So within this table, you can add whatever you need here, like check, verify, undo, whatever that might be. I'm going to add another one just to show you. Let's go to the basic ones. Let's add a button. So step 4 would be something like sign up now. And from here, I can add an external URL or, even an internal link or something like that. Great. So that being said, we do have the option to move around these items. So from here, I can drag and drop this, and the numbered list will be automatically updated. So even if I go in and, I want to, for example, delete this step from here. Let me delete the button, actually. I can do that. And again, when I delete one of these steps, it basically, it gets renumbered. So that's pretty powerful whenever you have, like I said, step-by-step guides. You have procedures that people would need to follow. And if we're talking about procedures, if I'm going to add a new item list over here, you can have a checklist within an item. So there's really not much limitation to the workflow block. So like I said, think of it as a turbocharged list. Now, I would like to talk next about the editor and the document updates that we did. So in terms of the improvements and the new features, we spent some time to update the underlying technology for better writing experience. As you already saw with the workflow block, we already started to add a lot of improvements and new elements to the editor, but this is like a stronger base for us with the editor v2 to provide you with better writing experience. So let me highlight some of the elements that we improved since we added the new technology to the editor. So first off, we have a new block menu. If you haven't noticed already, the block menu is a bit different now. So when you click on it, the block is being highlighted. So this will tell me like, okay, this is the block that I'm selecting. And I can, move it up, down, insert blocks, copy, duplicate it, or even remove it. So the new block menu, gives you a little bit better experience in terms of working around with blocks, including drag and dropping. I'm not sure if a lot of you have been using drag and drop, but for example, if I'm going to drag and drop this heading, I can move it around, and this goes for any type of block that we have. So this is the block menu. Next, let's talk about the draft documents. So the way this works is pretty simple. Each document can be marked as draft. And the way this works is that the documents that have the label draft will not be published. So to give you a quick example, if I go here to new workflow block, I'm going to click on these three dots and mark draft as on. It's gonna give me a message telling me that this document will not be published if you publish the space, and all of the children of this document will also not be published, right? So, okay, I understand. And now if I'm gonna preview the changes, if I go to my preview window over here, you'll see that the workflow block is not available anymore. So you can use this in so many different ways. But most of the time, maybe you'll be using it to, work on a document until it's ready, and maybe you have, plans to publish the space while you're working on a document. So just having that draft element over there, it's a lot easier for you to manage your documentation. But also, another cool way to use this is that you might have a space that you share with your clients or your users, but you'd also like to have some documents that are relevant to that space, but keep it only for the users of your account. So whenever you mark a document as draft, you'll basically have a mix of public documents and private documents. So just keep that in mind. You can use it in both ways. Most of the times I've seen customers use this just to keep the document from not being published while they work on the new documentation. Now, let's go back to the editor and document improvements over here and talk a little bit more about the export options that we added. So initially, you could export the entire content of an account. This meant that you can download all of the spaces with all of the documents within that space. But what we added recently is a more granular control for export. So if you go here to these three dots, you'll see the option to export the content. So if I'm going to click on this one, you'll see that you get a message saying that you'll get an email with a zip file, and within that zip file, you'll have access to all of the documents within the space. So you won't have to go and download the entire content of the account with all of the spaces. You can go space by space if that's what you want. It's a more granular control, and I think that's helpful for most of you out there. Now, I see a question in the chat. Yes, the recording will be available. So you'll get an automatic email with the recording when it's done processing. But on top of the new features and the new elements that we added to the editor and to the document, let's go over the improvements. So we already had the revision history, the changelog, the API plugin, which is basically the API endpoint block. We did have dynamic links and the markdown syntax, but we added some improvements there. So let's talk about that a bit. In terms of the document revision history, I hope you already know that we do automatically save the content each time you make an edit. So the content is safe. You don't have to worry about losing the content while you work with Archbee. But in terms of the revision history, what happened is that you had a bunch of revisions that maybe were not that relevant each time we did the save. So what we did is we batched the revisions in 10-minute increments. So each 10 minutes, a new revision history is saved. So now if you click on any of these revisions, you'll see a comparison of the latest revision with the one that you've selected. And you'll see with, as you probably know, with red, what was deleted, and with green, what was added. So you can revert back, so on and so forth. But the improvement here is that the increments are now every 10 minutes. So this allows you for a better experience to check between various versions of a single document. Next, I'm going to talk about these three items here. So the changelog, the API endpoint plugin or block, and the dynamic links. So I'm going to move to this document called blocks. And I've already added here, the changelog, the API endpoint, and a dynamic link. So let me share with you what are the improvements here. So initially with the changelog block, you could add, your changelog items. You can add here whatever title you would like, describe, so on and so forth. But you couldn't really move these elements around. So what we added is like an improved drag and drop experience. So if you want to group, the added items, and this, was broken, and maybe add another one with no issue, you can move them around and kind of group them, to have a better reading experience this time, where your clients will look and see like, okay, this was added, this is a known issue, and this was fixed. Basically, drag and drop for each of the changelog items. And the same thing can be said about the API endpoint. So the API endpoint is really easy to access. You just type /API, hit enter, and you get the API endpoint block. So this is really powerful because it allows you to write your own API calls. You can change the title, the description, you can add parameters, you can add your own code examples and responses. So it's pretty flexible. But whenever you added parameters to your API call, and maybe you wanted to move them around, that was not possible initially. So again, we added the drag and drop experience to the API endpoint. So this means that within a parameter type, you can drag and drop multiple items here. So again, if I add here another parameter, but this one actually is supposed to be the first one, you can drag and drop that. Of course, you can delete these if you want, so on and so forth. So for the changelog and API endpoint, you're going to get like the drag and drop experience for each item. Now, let's talk a little bit about the dynamic links. So if I'm going to click here, actually, let me add another dynamic link. So let me point to Archbee Chrome extension. So the dynamic links works pretty simple. Whenever you use the @ symbol and you reference a document, this being a dynamic link means that even if you change the title of the document, the position, or whatever, it will always reference the right URL. So except for the situation when you delete the document, this link will always work for your reader. So if I'm going to add here the dynamic link, there are a couple of changes that we did, and they're pretty interesting, actually. So if you click on this, you're going to see, actually, let me go to the other one. You're going to see that you can set an anchor. So whenever you click on a dynamic link, now you have the option to set an anchor, and this will allow you to set the section of that document where you would like to send the readers. So for example, if in this case, I would like to point people to the improvement section of my document, I will just select this anchor text. Maybe I would like just to give it a different title, go to see improvements. So right now I have a dynamic link with a different title that's more, proper for the context that I want to use it. And I can also link to the specific, section of that document. Another update that we did is that for each time you change the title of the document, so let's add here, download, and I'm going to go back to my document. Each time I update the document title, if you're going to use the dynamic links, this will also be updated within the dynamic link that you created. So this is like an improvement on the reader side. Now it's more clear what the document is referencing. You can change the title of the dynamic link, so a lot more control for you to write and a better experience for the reader. Now, these are the high-level items that I wanted to talk about the editor and the improvements. We do have some markdown syntax that we added and you can use. So if I'm going to go here to our documentation portal, you can see here, actually, let me go to the editor. This is like the editor shortcuts. So we have here a list of all of the markdown shortcuts that you can use for all of the blocks, including the callouts, the link blocks, any of those blocks that are more custom to Archbee. There is a markdown shortcut for that. And this is really helpful, for example, whenever somebody wants to use it for, they can connect the GitHub repo and they want to render our own custom blocks. And if you're going to use this markdown syntax, we'll be able to render that pretty nicely if you integrate with GitHub. So that's the final element in terms of the improvements for the editor and the documents. So let's talk now a little bit more about integrations. So we added 3 new integrations to Archbee. It's an integration with Zapier, with Zendesk, and Intercom. So the way the Zapier integration works is that you can generate an API key for each space. So if I'm going to click here, generate API key, it will give me an API key. And with that API key, you can integrate with any of these platforms. So for example, if you go to Zapier and we already have the app available in their marketplace. You can use Archbee as one app that you want to connect, and maybe you want to connect with, I don't know, let's say HubSpot. So using these two apps, you'll be able to define, like, when a new document is being generated in Archbee, you can set up a custom automated flow, a zap as they call them, to do something in HubSpot. Maybe you want to create a new record there, maybe take a note, whatever that might be. Now you can use Zapier to integrate with any other tools in your stack. I think this is really powerful. We're looking for feedback. So if you're going to give it a try and you would like to see new events from Archbee and any other things that might help you, drop us an email and we'll be more than happy to further expand this integration. Going back to the Zendesk integration, the way this works is pretty simple. And most of our clients actually wanted to write content in Archbee, but have the content available in the Zendesk search. Maybe they use Zendesk for their customer support, so on and so forth. So the way this works is that you need to have a Zendesk account, of course. So you can go to Zendesk and you can set up this Archbee integration. With this integration, if I scroll down, you can sync the content within Archbee in the Zendesk federated search. So what this allows you, if I scroll down, is whenever one of your customers is in Zendesk and they want to search for something, they will type the query, but the results will be the documents within Archbee. And whenever you click on that document, it will open the portal that's being hosted by Archbee. So this is like a nice experience. If you have, again, if you're using Zendesk for customer support, it's a really great way to deflect tickets, allow people to be self-service and search for the content that they would need to work with your product. Now, let's go to Intercom. Intercom works similarly to the Zendesk integration. Some of the clients use Intercom as their, chat bot. So whenever you go here to Intercom and connect your account, your Archbee account with Intercom, what you're going to be able to do is allow people to search from within the chatbot for different documents. So this means that whenever the chat bubble opens up, you first ask them to search for a document, and whatever they search there are basically the documents that are being pulled from Archbee. And if they find the answer, they click on the document, they will open the hosted documentation with Archbee. So pretty similar in terms of how it works with Zendesk. We just provide the content to these two apps, and your users can do the searches from those applications and then read them from hosted Archbee portal. So these three new integrations are the new ones that you can use. So to use them, you should go to account settings, integrations, and from here, depending on the plan that you're on, you can set up Zendesk. You need to add your subdomain, the API key from Zendesk. For Intercom, it's simpler. You just need to connect the Archbee account with Intercom, and after that, you do some setup on the other side. But different setups, but they work similarly in principle. Now, let me go back to the enhanced GitHub integration. So what we added recently is two elements to the GitHub integration. Now, I'm going to explain first the custom code. So if I'm going to go to our documentation here, what this allows you is to define a different configuration file, a JSON file in this case. And what you can do is you can set up custom CSS and custom JavaScript within your GitHub organization or repository, reference that file. And because you reference that file, all that information will be automatically executed within our custom JavaScript and custom CSS fields. This means that instead of going to Archbee and typing in your custom code, you can use GitHub to iterate on that and you just reference that document, that file actually from GitHub, and we'll be able to render it within that space. Another cool example is the code snippets. So we're looking to improve the way the code snippets work, but if you define in the config.md file, you reference a different file from that repo, and you define the lines where a code might be, a piece of code might be. What we do from there is that we take that code that's, let's say, between lines 1 and lines 5, and we're going to render it in Archbee. So this is a quick example. Let's assume like the package.json file is available within your repo. You're going to reference it here in your config.md file. And from there, you would say like, okay, I want this GitHub integration to take the code between lines 6 and line 10 and showcase it within my portal. So after you do the sync, after you integrate with GitHub, you basically, the lines between 6 and 10, which is like a script, test, run all, and start, are going to be synced automatically with Archbee. And each time you change those lines, they will be, again, automatically updated within Archbee. So this is a great way to share code snippets that might be changed over time. So because we do have this integration, you can change the code from within the GitHub repo, and after that you'll have it available within Archbee. So this is pretty powerful. If you have a lot of code examples that you need to share, but you would like to manage all of that from your GitHub account. So these are the news about the integrations. Let's go about fixes, security, and infrastructure. As always, we're always doing bug fixes. So we did some improvements on different blocks. I encourage you at all times to report any unexpected behavior. If you go here to the question mark, send us a message. You can open a support ticket or report a bug. Whenever you report a bug, we try to fix that as fast as possible. So feel free to do that. We also did infrastructure updates, user experience improvements, like I said, with the new block menu. But we did added some security features. So right now, you can log out from all devices. If you go here to account settings, this button over here will allow you to log out from all devices. And I'm mentioning this first because this was one of the elements that our auditor asked us to do to improve some of our security measures. But the idea is that at this moment, we're basically in the final weeks of getting the SOC Type 2 certification. But if you do go to security.archbee.com, this is the page, you'll see the report that it was generated by Vanta with all of the monitoring and all of the checks that they did. So in terms of security with this type of certification, I think a lot of the questions that we get in terms of the elements that we look for are pretty much covered. Now, these are the updates. We talked about our new Chrome extension, which I encourage you to go and download, try it for yourself, and use it to build, step-by-step guides or your documentation a lot faster, because we automatically take the screenshots, we automatically generate some information for you, and it's a lot easier than just screenshotting and moving around the different elements. Next, we talked about the workflow block. This is like a turbocharged list. You can add here any type of blocks, and if you move around the items, they get automatically updated. So a lot more easier to build procedures. We also talked about the editor, the new technology, the block menu, the draft documents, the export space to Markdown, and the other improvements of the existing blocks. So in terms of integrations, we're more than happy to get your feedback. If you want to try Zapier, Zendesk, or if you already use Zendesk or Intercom, go in and try to add those integrations, see how they work for you. Whenever you have feedback, reach out to us. So I think now it's a good time to just jump to conclusions and tell you about our roadmap. So in the next months, we're we're going to focus on adding real-time collaboration to Archbee. This means that when this is live in the product, this means that you can have multiple users on a document collaborating at the same time without having issues with who's writing content or what's happening there. So this will be a another enhancement in terms of your writing experience and of course in terms of collaboration. Next, we're going to improve our API endpoints. The next step is to add a try it out feature. So basically, whenever you import OpenAPI files or you're going to use the API endpoint block, you will be able to try out various API calls and different parameters from there. So that's something that we're going to bring in the next month. And of course, if you haven't already, we do want to add some AI-powered features to Archbee, but for that, we need your input. So if you do have some time, I encourage you to take our short survey where we ask you some different questions about what do you expect from this new technology and the types of features that you consider will be helpful for your workflow in terms of the documentation. So these are the next updates that we're working on: real-time collab, improved API endpoints with the try it out and the AI features. So whenever you want to add ideas or share with us what we should work on, you can go to roadmap.archbee.com. Here, actually, it's an easier way to get to that. If you go to the question mark over here, feature ideas and roadmap. So this will basically load. It should load. Not sure why it doesn't load that, but it would load this portal, and you can make a suggestion after you log in, or you can type here, APIs or whatever that might be. You can upvote, add comments, and we will know what we can work on. Now, if you want to get in touch with our team, write to support@archbee.com, or if you want to book an onboarding session, talk about the improvements, or if you want to provide product feedback, you can go to this URL and you can book a call with me, and I'll be more than happy to help you out to set up Archbee or answer any questions. That being said, I'm going to take a quick pause, and we're going to spend the next minute answering questions if we have questions. So let me get to that. So no questions until now. I'm going to give you, let's say, a minute or so if anybody wants to start the conversation. If not, we'll wrap it up. As I said, you will get the recording, so you'll be able to share it with your teammates if you want that, or you'll also get an email with all of these product updates and some extra steps that you can do to get the right information, maybe the documentation links that I shared, so on and so forth. Any word on the PIP integration? So this is one question. I don't have any updates on that, but what I can do is just copy this question, and I'll make sure to get back to you and update. Let me see if this is added here in the roadmap. I'm just curious. Yeah. So I'm going to talk with the product manager here, and I'll make sure to follow up on this specific question. Myself, I don't have any updates on the PI integration. Cool. Thanks for joining. It was nice letting you know what we worked on. As always, we're working on building the best documentation platform out there. There's still a lot of work to do, but your feedback is important. So whenever you want to get in touch with us, write to support, and we'll be more than happy to talk with you. So that being said, thanks for joining again. Have a great day and take care. Bye-bye.